Yeah, elevate women's veterans, sisterhood, love, and support for all women who served. Yeah. Triumph, hardship, perseverance in the fight to win. A million times out in that field, we just survived again, climbed again. We deserve respect, we put our time in. It's only right we elevate. Yeah. This is Elevate Women Veterans with your host, Ebony Gray.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Elevate Women Veterans. I am your host, Ebony Gray, and today we are going to talk about the contributions of women veterans in politics and how they've made a difference. And also, we'll talk about some of the challenges that they face, as well as how they overcame them. And if we have time, we'll dig into the mental health aspects and strategies that women veterans can use to cope and heal. We want to make sure we emphasize that, especially this is Women's History Month. It is all about living that soft life. It is all about making sure that we're investing in ourselves and taking care of ourselves as not only women veterans, but as women, as wives, as moms, as sisters, as daughters. Because if we're not healthy, the whole house isn't healthy. So let's get into it. So first of all, as many of you may or may not know, I am a graduate of Emerge Maryland. Emerge Maryland is a political organization that basically helps to train women to run for elections and win. We have a very high success rate of going into those campaigns and actually winning all throughout, for me, Maryland, right? But all throughout the United States. So if you're thinking about jumping into the realm of politics, definitely consider your Emerge program. They do have Emerge America, and then they have Emerge all throughout the United States, but they also have other organizations like She Should Run that help to train women to get into politics. I know a lot of times when we're in the military, politics is taboo, right? It's a no-no. We can't talk about politics. We can't even associate with politics. You can't have anything political in your workplace. And you really have to be cautious, right, about what you say or do. At least that's what we're told. But is that true? Partially, right? So make sure you definitely talk to your ethics office before you jump or do anything. So don't just jump off the cliff. Actually, make sure you're educated on what you can and can't do politically. So the number one thing we can do is vote. So definitely get out the vote. Not just for those annual elections in November, the presidential elections, but also for your local elections like your mayor election, your council, your state, your gubernatorial elections, your city council, your county council, your state delegates, all the way down to your school board. That's another thing. A lot of times we talk about, well, how can we get involved? How can we make a difference? How can we change the things around us? So little things, or should I say big things, like the school board, that can make or break you as far as how you're investing in your children, or if you're not a parent, what is the school system doing in your community? Because that definitely impacts the price and the cost of your house, right? Because people want to move into communities with great school systems. Or it could be something like your trash and recyclable pickup, or like the police brutality that's going on. We have different commissions that focus on police reform, or let's say youth and mental health services or disability services. We have we have commissions, we have boards, all that impact that. So you wouldn't necessarily vote for those commissions or boards, but guess what? You could volunteer to serve on those commissions or boards throughout your community. So again, that's one way, two ways to get involved. Get out and vote for all of your elections, not just the federal, but your state and local. Possibly volunteer to sit on the boards or the commissions. So, for example, I serve as the co-chair for the Interagency Commission for Homelessness. So I get to not only monitor the allocation of funds, make decisions on what the county of Montgomery County is doing for homelessness, but also I get to meet the continuum of care and get to network and get to sit at the table to make decisions for homelessness. Some people, maybe you care about like workforce development. That's a great way to get involved. You get involved with the Workforce Development Board, and maybe you can have an impact on the different jobs and resources available to the community. Or maybe you're all about women. For example, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, really all the counties, all the cities, maybe even at the state level and the White House level, they may have a women's commission or veterans commission or veterans women's commission, basically serving to advocate for us, to make decisions for us, and to implement policies for us. So that's, again, another way that you can get involved on a political level per se, but so that you don't get in trouble. But again, make sure you talk to your ethics office, because sometimes there are different things that may or may not prevent you from serving, maybe on different boards if it's a conflict of interest, or about your time, like how you allocate your time and your commitment to that particular board. Another thing that many people may not consider is these political campaigns need volunteers. So I always have to go back to employment. If you're looking for maybe experience, you can volunteer on a political campaign as a field director. That's that person that's going out, organizing people to knock on the doors, to send out those flyers, to make sure that people in the streets, people in the community actually know the candidate. So that's a good way to be an organizer, to manage people, to be able to do the customer service, or to manage campaigns, right? That's one way. Or the campaign director, right? Like basically you are the one that's responsible, that's organizing that campaign, that's recruiting all the volunteers, that's helping the candidate to figure out what they need for their specific campaign and how they want to organize their campaign, the fundraising aspect, even building relationships and building coalitions. So that's a great way to get experience, but also to advocate for someone that you genuinely care about that might be running for office. Fundraising, you could be a fundraiser director. Now, some of these political campaigns, and you can fact check me, all of political campaigns, their campaign financing and funding is public, right? You can go to the websites for federal, state, and local and see how they're fundraising and how they're campaigning and, who's writing the checks. But imagine if you were the fundraising director for a congressional or a Senate or school district race, right? So for a congressional campaign, you may have to raise like over millions of dollars of funding. That's a big deal. So if you're talking about getting experience and getting your feet in the door, imagine if you were responsible for directing or sitting on that campaign team and helping to raise $100,000 or $1 million for a campaign. So that's a great way to get involved and to be active, not only in politics and campaigning, but also in the community. And again, if you're talking about experience, it's a great way to build experience. Now, for many of my friends that are in the IT community, guess what? I have yet, and let me take this back. When I first got out the military in 2012, I actually went through a lot of political training. I volunteered for political campaigns, and I started getting involved. The first organization that I got involved with was the Young Democrats of Maryland, Prince George's County Young Democrats of Maryland. We did so well with community service, with advocating, with that grassroots organizing, that of course we won chapter of the year because of the impact. And many of the people that I knew from the Prince George's County Young Democrats went on to actually serve in the offices. And then I also participated with the Montgomery County Young Democrats. And again, they also went on to serve in public positions. So that was just a big deal. We worked presidential campaigns, we worked gubernatorial campaigns, we worked senatorial campaigns, congressional campaigns, school district, sheriff campaigns. So we really put in the work. So I can say in one particular year, I actually worked 8 campaigns from campaign manager to financial director. And it just was a great experience, a great journey. Gave me a lot of experience. I got to meet and network with a lot of people. So I'm talking from experience, from the education aspect and from the boots to ground aspect of going out there and campaigning and networking and making a difference in the community. You can also do that. That is perfectly legal, perfectly within your realm from wherever you are, especially as a veteran, right? We're out the military, we're serving as a veteran, just trying to figure out the what next. It's a great way to build relationships and get that experience. Now, going back to the bread and butter, many of my peers are IT. So I had yet to work with a campaign that knew how to use the IT and technology. So if you're experienced in digital graphics, digital art, AI, doing the automated process, like building websites and being able to capture data and build a database, being able to actually build the website for a candidate, being able to help to automate phone calls or automate putting all the data together, whether like who you contacted, how you contacted, the volunteer database, all of that is experience that's needed on these campaigns. So if you're thinking about, well, how can I help? Even if you didn't have a lot of time, maybe you just wanted to do a one-time impact, you can volunteer to possibly build a website or volunteer to help in the IT realm. So that's another great way to get experience and also help to make a significant impact in politics and political campaigns. Also, speaking of, again, I got my start in the Prince George's County Young Democrats. Political organizations are another great way to make an impact. Like, depending on your party affiliation, depending on what you care about, there's women's organizations that are all parties, right? Like, they're nonpartisan. You can join. They'll advocate for women's specific issues, which could be a variety of things from domestic violence issues, healthcare issues, childcare issues, definitely the wage gap, right? Like that's something I think we should all care about, especially as women, or I think as a collective community, is equalizing the pay, not just decreasing the pay gap, but equalizing the pay. So that's another thing. Like you can join focus groups that just talk about equalizing the pay or talk about homelessness or youth services. So different groups or, political groups that push that agenda. You can be part of political groups that are affiliated with specific parties like the Young Dems. They have some for the Young Republicans or, overall like Republican Party, Democratic Party, Independent Party, Green Party, Independent, like all the parties. You also could do gender specific, right? Because they have women's organizations that are focused just on women's issues, women's rights. You also could do, let's say, one big campaign I remember is increasing our wage, increasing the minimum wage. That's another organization or a group or, political type party that's advocating for that specific issue. They wanted to increase the wage, right? From, I think it was $5.25 for years. So if you want to see an issue, go Google minimum wage for your specific state, and you'll see like that's a huge discrepancy. Like how can you live right off of $5.25 an hour, 40 hours a week? Is that enough to pay rent and your bills and to survive? So that may be an issue you care about, and that's a way that you can get involved with the politics. Another thing is to write letters, right? So as women veterans, we have so many distinct issues that impact us. So it could be our pay, right? As far as our retirement pay or our disability benefits pay, our school, right? The 9/11 bill, that's a big deal, right? You get money for college, you get money for housing. You may want to advocate and talk about how that impacted your life. We may need more services. I think we always need more services as far as for women's health care, for women's mental health care. So you can write your congressional rep, your senatorial rep to say, this is what I care about. I hope that you emphasize or that you focus on XYZ initiative. You can tell them you're a constituent. You can even put in there that you voted for them, right? You know, just in case you don't have to lie. If you didn't, you didn't. But again, you can advocate for yourself. So writing those letters, maybe writing testimonials. And also, many of you may not know, many of their hearings are open. So when you see like different bills that are being passed, many times they'll have public hearings or a public option for you to be able to write about that specific issue. So maybe you just want to sit in on a hearing and see what they're saying, or maybe you want to testify yourself. So that's another way that you can be involved. I know for my specific area, my senator actually has town halls. So that's another thing, is you may have community town halls where you're able to talk to your elected officials personally and tell them what's going on. Speaking of police, also in my community, and I hope in all of your communities, the police department has teas and coffee. Now, I don't know who's getting up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, but if you are so inclined, you can meet with your police chief. Most times they have like a community group for most police departments, and you can sit and have coffee and talk about what's going on in your community. Plus, it's a good way to get to know the law enforcement. So when we talk about bridging gaps and we talk about how we can make a difference, that's a great way to make a difference. I certainly believe in community policing, where the police actually take the effort and opportunity to get to know the community. Another big thing that goes on in most communities is you'll have like the chambers of commerce. Maybe if you're interested in business type issues and connecting with other entrepreneurs, and you have, oh my goodness, I can't think, like different community groups. So like you have your homeowners association. Now, let's get into that. Some of the homeowners associations is kind of ruthless, right? Like it's like the mafia trying to get up in there, but it gives you the opportunity to know what's going on in your community, what's going on in your neighborhood, maybe to make an impact. Like I know some things we've done in my community is we've gotten the speed bumps, which I'm not sure if I like that or not, right? It impacts me, but the speed bumps help to slow people down, you know, for safety and precautions, especially with children. We've gotten street lights, like, you know, sometimes it's a little dark on your street. You want additional street lights. We have neighborhood community groups that do like the policing, where they patrol the communities, walk around the communities. They organize that as a HOA, as a neighborhood, to make our community safe. So it's not police, it's actually neighborhood people going out into the community to actually advocate for the community, make sure everybody's safe. They know what's going on. They know the neighbors. And again, the neighborhood watches seem to be extremely effective. Also, within the schools, you have your parent-teacher associations. Those are great ways. When you talk about political influence and how to get in politics, a lot of times all we think about is the presidential campaign. PTA is powerful in politics as far as funding, financing the schools, making an impact and influencing the school board and the elected officials on different policies that impact the students and the community and the parents and the children. So the PTA is a great way to be involved. And again, going back to employment and opportunities, when you're involved in these organizations, for the PTA, I can guarantee you their budget is over $1,000, right? But let's say one of the larger PTAs, your budget might be $100,000. So if you were the treasurer, you would be responsible for managing and allocating $100,000 budget. That's a big deal if you're trying to transition into the workforce. Imagine if you volunteered for the PTA, managed the budget, managed the books, did the accounting, kept them all out of jail because that's important. Auditing the internal audits, making sure they're good stewards of their finances. That's a job. That's a volunteer opportunity that you can directly translate over into your day-to-day skills. So when you're applying for a job, you can say you have that experience, whether it's a treasurer, secretary, president, volunteer. Because again, think about specifically the PTA or many of these organizations, when you organize the fundraisers. How many fundraisers, especially as parents, as wives, as mothers, how many fundraisers have you been a part of? So imagine if you were able to raise funds for the PTA or another organization, and you help to contribute to that $100,000 budget or fund. You help to organize people, manage personalities, conflicts, because I'm certain you have conflicts when you're organized, especially with the PTA, when you're organizing different personalities, different ideas. So that is a great way to gain experience, a great way to meet people, a great way to grow with yourself, a great way to be in the know with what's going on in the community. So those are significant impact and key ways to get involved in politics, to get involved in your community, to stay engaged. And again, I know in the military, a lot of times we're so used to just doing, right? We weren't allowed to just sit back. We had to have some sort of community service in the military. So if you still choose to want to give back, I'm providing you just multiple ways that you can give back in the community. Now, another way, of course, is you can run for office. So I had to look up, I had to Google, I said, who are some of the women that have served in Congress? So I'll just go to Congress. That's one of the highest levels in the government. I said, who has served? Now, number one, the one thing that I'm looking at is there's a lack of color and diversity. So that's one thing I want to encourage, especially my African-American veterans, to run for office. We need representation if we want our voices to be heard. We have to consider to jump out there and actually run for office. But a few of the notable officials that have run and won office in Congress, Dr. Heather Wilson. She was an Air Force officer from 1978 to 1989. She was the first female veteran ever elected to a full term in Congress. And she represented New Mexico's 1st Congressional District from 1998 to 2009. So just imagine the first woman veteran to be elected into Congress was in 1998. And she represented the Air Force. I would like to point that out, go Air Force, go blue. But again, she was leading from the front. So that was a bold leap for her to step out and run for office. And if you're thinking about running for office, it is a great idea to kind of reach out to some of these women that have been there before and ask them for mentorship, ask them for tips. You can even ask them for a donation if you're so inclined. But I want you to know and recognize these women. Another representative is Representative Tulsi Gabbard. Now, she's currently an active member of the Hawaii Army National Guard since 2003. She was elected to the Hawaii State House of Representatives in 2002 at the age of 21. She was young and ambitious and a go-getter. And again, she ran and she won. She made history for becoming the youngest person ever elected to public office in Hawaii. That's a big deal. And again, one thing about women is typically when we run, we win, right? We campaign to win. And when we actually serve, we make a significant impact. Another woman that many of you may know, she's one of the more popular congressional reps, Senator Tammy Duckworth. She served on both sides of Congress. She represented the 8th Congressional District of Illinois from 2013 to 2017. And she now serves as the U.S. Senator for Illinois. She served as a pilot, as a helicopter pilot in the U.S. Army Reserve before joining the Illinois National Guard in 1996. So the one thing, too, is understanding what you can and can't do as far as running for office. Like if you were active duty versus guard. So active duty, no, not at all. But guard, you may have some leeway as far as being able to serve, being able to campaign. And then, of course, as a veteran, the sky is the limit depending on your job. So definitely contact your ethics office to figure out what offices you can run for. Now, while serving like in the government, you actually can run for nonpartisan offices, right? Which could be like the school board. So that is an option. But again, make sure you understand your limitations and your options. Another woman that served, a military veteran, Senator Martha McSally, another Air Force veteran for 26 years. And she served from 1988 to 2010, where she became the first woman fighter pilot to fly in combat. That was pretty significant. She was appointed in 2019 by the Arizona governor to serve as U.S. Senator, and she ended her term in 2021. Also, we have Senator Joni Ernst. She was a U.S. Senator from Iowa. In 2014, she ran for the open Senate seat in Iowa, and she won. Then we have Representative Nikki Sherrill. She served in the U.S. Navy for 9 years. She graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy. And she's known for consistently working across the aisle for the benefit of her district. She currently serves as a U.S. representative for New Jersey's 11th Congressional District. One thing I can say about New Jersey, I actually got training, and I think it was called She Should Lead. And New Jersey was very nonpartisan or bipartisan, where basically they worked across the lines, across the board, across the aisle to get things done. So that's interesting that they highlighted that for Representative Sherrill, because that really is how New Jersey operates. And one thing I learned with politics is there are no permanent friends, there are no permanent enemies, only common interests. So when it comes to politics, sometimes you need friends on all sides in order to get things done. Then we have Representative Chrissy Holohan, and she served as a representative in Pennsylvania. So I am from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, so you know I'm super excited about her. She's the 6th Congressional District, and she was the first woman ever to win that seat. So unfortunately, we still have first for women. I want to stop that. Like, matter of fact, I want you to be the first to step into a seat. So she represented Pennsylvania. And again, we have Representative Elaine Loria. She served 20 years as a U.S. Navy veteran and small business owner. And she's currently serving as a representative for Virginia's 2nd Congressional District since 2019. So that is the smallest, like the smallest of the women that have served at the top level, at the congressional and Senate level in our United States government. So my question to all of you is, why not you, right? Why shouldn't you serve? Why can't you serve? Why won't you make that commitment to serve? And just consider it. And again, as you're considering, like if you're considering stepping into that box, consider reaching out to those women. The one thing I can say, serving on many of the trainings, the shadow programs. I've never been told no. So anytime I've actually picked up the phone to make the call, to ask the question, can you help me? They always say yes. Like you can possibly shadow them. So if you have a congressional rep, a military woman veteran, or any, your own personal congressional rep from your jurisdiction, from your county, from your city, state, you can contact them and ask possibly if you can shadow them to just see their day to day. What does a life look like as a congressional rep or as a Senate rep? That's something that is open to you. Is something that I highly encourage. And again, you might get to sit on the floor. You might get to see them actually do policies. You might get to see them do the votes and see how they navigate. I think that's truly important because you want to know where you're going. You also want to make sure you have that historical knowledge. So they do have a library, a legislative library that you can go and you can understand how the government operates. You can understand what each person is responsible for doing. You can also, of course, I highly encourage you to look up all of your elected officials so you can see who's out there. And also, because you always should campaign to win, look and see what seats are coming vacant. Like within my community, a lot of seats are becoming vacant because we have our new governor, Governor Wes Moore. He's appointed a lot of people that he knows, loves, and trusts to his cabinet. So guess what? All of those seats, because they vacated to go serve the governor, are now vacant. So now there's opportunities for people to be appointed. And in order to be appointed, number one, you have to have your tribe, like people that support you from the community. Also, of course, your references, like people that stand behind you to say, yes, this person is a great person and they should serve in that appointed seat. Every district has different ways, the way they may do the appointment. So, for example, you might have a central committee that's voting for you, or they might do a special election, right? So you would have to gather up the community to actually go in and vote for you during an off election cycle. So those type of things are important to know. But this is a great time and opportunity for you to take that leap, to strike, to say, yes, I want to go out there. I want to do it. I want to run for office. I want to be the face of America's female hero that serves in office. We definitely need you. Now, on that, I always like to go back to mental health, right? Like basically, I done pushed y'all out there. You're campaigning. You're working on campaigns. You're volunteering. You're giving to the community. But we always have to go back to work-life balance. Like basically, how do you manage? Many people ask me that question all the time. How do you manage it all? Like literally, I work full-time. I am still considered a newlywed, even though I think we're going on our third year of marriage in December. So I still consider myself a newlywed. So, I have wife duties. I have my 9 to 5. I currently run 2 businesses. So my husband and I, we have Gray's Handyman Services. And then I also have Gray's Consulting Group where I consult and help people. I serve as a SCORE mentor. So I help, it's over 3,000 of us throughout the United States. And we help entrepreneurs figure it out, right? So we do the day-to-day coaching. Plus, I am a full-time grad student. I am working towards my MBA. So again, think about that. How do I manage? How am I even here, right? For Elevate Women Veterans. A lot of it is just finding that balance. Number one, my calendar is key. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. I actually have a very stringent Google Calendar. I put everything in my calendar from sometimes wake up at 8:00. Like that's on my calendar. Catch the train by this time, lunch at this time. I put everything on my calendar. Go grocery shopping. So that's one thing that I outsource. I know most of you, oh my gosh, I have to go into the grocery store on my own, shop. No, that is one thing that I outsource. I use Instacart. I check off everything as I run out. Like yesterday, we ran out of onions. So that's a simple thing. But I put that right on my Instacart: onions, water, sweetened condensed milk, like little things. But I made my list, checked it off, hit submit for Giant, and I had my order delivered to me in less than 30 minutes. So yes, I definitely could drive to the store, take that time. But guess what? I outsource. I tip very well, 20% to whoever delivers to my house. So thank you very much. But it creates that space for me. So then I have time to work on my website or to meet with customers late in the evening. And all I have to do is just open my door, take the groceries in, and then my husband and I put them away. I also schedule like cooking. Of course, what am I going to cook for each night? So I try not to outsource that because honestly, Uber Eats, that's like an $1,800 problem if you allow it to get out of control. So I will manage, like to say, tonight I am cooking red snapper, rice and peas. We're going to have some dumplings. I will actually outsource, plan out the menu. My husband likes to take his lunch, so that saves us a lot of money. He never orders out. So I make sure, of course, to make enough leftovers and manage that part of my life. So we're always going to have dinner. Breakfast, not so much. Breakfast, you are on your own in my house. Might have some raisin bread, a little mallow, but at least dinner. That is my one commitment, is every night I will make dinner. Sometimes we'll order out occasionally, but we went from that $1,800 Uber Eats budget, right? Which was excessive, to scaling it down to, okay, I know about $400 for groceries every 2 weeks, in order to manage and make sure that we have everything we need for our household. Also, I try to automate stuff. So when it comes to my business, automated emails, automated reminders, automated text messages to make sure I show up, make sure my client shows up, but I'm not focused on that day to day, or hiring a virtual assistant, right? So again, if you have to manage like multiple entities, a virtual assistant can help with the social media, can help with, the email traffic or the responses or the phone calls or whatever it is that I can't possibly manage at that particular time, because I have to focus on my MBA, focus on schoolwork. Sometimes I can't manage, right? I have to outsource. Another thing I outsource for is house cleaning. My husband and I love a clean house. And I don't know about you, but I don't feel like taking 8 to 10 hours cleaning my house on the weekends. So what I do is I outsource. I hire a cleaning service once a month. They come in, the house is sparkling clean. And of course, we do the day-to-day maintenance. So those are things that I outsource. Now, I haven't quite got to laundry outsourcing, but I think that's probably the next move, because I would love to have somebody wash all my clothes and fold. Like, I'm just not a grown-up like that. I wash clothes, and it's hard for me to like take them from the dryer to fold them all up and put them up. Like, I just haven't reached that level of maturity in life. My husband, though, he's great at it, but I think I need to outsource that part too, to just the wash and fold service. So again, it's thinking about ways that you can just make your life easier. I see a lot of parents, a lot of mothers that are online that talk about taking their children all over the place. Listen, sometimes not that you have to say no to your child, but carpool, outsource that. Like, you know what? It's 20 of us moms that are all going to this ballet class or this soccer practice at the same time. Why can't y'all take turns? Organize and say, you know what? How about we all take turns and take little Timmy and Becky and Susie to soccer practice or ballet class or whatever they have going on together, right? As a community. If you try, of course, that would take trust. It would take getting to know. But if you're overwhelmed, like you are breaking your neck trying to get home from work, Timmy have soccer practice at 6 p.m. You get off of work at 5:30. Why not reach out to your village and the other parents to say, is it possible that you can pick Timmy up tonight to take him to the practice? Or if you have a spouse, guess what? You're a team. right? Like you can communicate and possibly say, can you take Timmy this week? I'll take Timmy next week. But again, think about just ways that you could possibly make your life easier. They even have, I believe there's like a Uber for kids. It's not the regular Uber, but it's actually people that are screened and certified to be able to take children from point A to point B safely so parents can trust. Or, of course, I have a friend that works as a nanny. So she works as a nanny for another Black woman. And the woman and her husband are like, we have so much going on. She has an intense job. She's there. The child goes to school. The husband's coming home from work, possibly working overnight. So he can't, right? He doesn't have the time. He's not up to be able to take care of little Timmy. And again, I'm making up that name. So they hire a nanny to be able to pick up their child from point A to point B, like from getting to school to getting home, and to spend time with the child so the husband can get some sleep, so the wife can feel, comfortable, like, okay, I can focus on my virtual work, or she has to go into work and they don't have to worry about it. So they have that person to kind of make their lives easier. And my friend has said, they both have said to her, she has made their life easier. She adds value to the life. And of course, little Timmy loves her to death. So you have to think about, why are we torturing ourselves? Like if you're overwhelmed or feel like every day you're working for 20 hours, consider ways that you can outsource. I'm telling you, Instacart is everything. That saves like an hour, sometimes an hour and a half off your life, depending on how far that grocery store is. And guess what? They even deliver things like Sephora. So you could get your makeup, you could get your Target run, you could get your groceries all in one place and not have to stress about it. Plus, I don't know about you, but for me, it saves money because when I walk into the grocery store on my own, it goes from a $250 problem to like a $400 problem because I'm putting a whole bunch of snacks and things that I don't need in my cart. So just think about that. Like if there's ways that you could just possibly eliminate the stress, eliminate having to run from place to place and just make your life much simpler. Also, speaking of like marriage and relationships, consider no screen time, right? For everybody in the household. I have talked to people where they say, absolutely not. My child can't go without their iPad for more than 5 minutes. I have to have my phone. Imagine if you had a Sunday, a family day, just where you all focused on each other, just talked about your day, went to the park. When's the last time that you went to the park and just sat on the swing? Or, just sat, read a book, looked at little Timmy and little Susie running back and forth, just having a good time. When's the last time you flew a kite, right, together as a family? Have you taken that time? So consider if you have space in your life to possibly just make time for just you and your family and your loved one. No screen time, like cut the phones off for a day, for a couple of hours, just to focus and refresh and rebuild. Even if it's every night, that might be too much. I know some people might have, panic attacks thinking about that. But what about if you had family time for dinner, like from 7 to 8? It's just us. We're going to eat dinner. We're just going to, bond. We're going to connect, check in. Do you have space in your life for that? Because again, we're spending so much time online, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, going back and forth. But when's the last time that you just made time to connect, even outside of your family, with friends, like just a girlfriend's day, just to spend time with your friends, maybe at brunch or dinner, just to connect, and put all your phones in the middle of the table, cut them off. Like don't be sitting, having dinner, just checking your phone, but just actually taking time to connect. Because a lot of us military veterans feel disconnected, right? So being intentional, being purposeful on how to connect with each other. Another thing is maybe no screen time before bed, right? Like, do you have a nighttime ritual? Insomnia has popped up a lot on my timeline where people are like, oh my God, I can't sleep. What am I going to do? Now, mind you, they're on their phone, on Facebook with the screen, right? All night, typing, reading about Swarm. Like your mind is racing. You developed just a nighttime ritual, maybe meditation, maybe cutting your phone off an hour before bed, maybe a nice relaxing bath, set the tone with the candles, dim the lights, and just relax so you can wind down and just relax and go to sleep. Right? Try it and tell me how that works out for you. But that's the thing. These are little steps and little things that you can take to work on your self-care, to work on your mental health, and most importantly, to work on rest and connection. Because that's something that many of us are missing, right? Just that connection, the rest, and that wellness part of just taking care of us. Just focusing our mind, resetting our minds, and just getting away from all the stress, all the busyness of the world. So I want you, as I close out for today, I want all of you to remember to rest. Like, you matter. You deserve to give yourself permission to just rest. And I thank you so much. And I do hope that everything that I talked about today was helpful, whether it's giving back, right, in politics, in community, or giving yourself permission to rest and recharge. So thank you so much. And I look forward to talking to all of you soon. Bye.
Yeah. Triumph, hardship, perseverance in the fight to win. A million times out in that field, we just survived again, climbed again. We deserve respect, we put our time in. It's only right we elevate. Yeah. This is Elevate Women Veterans with your host, Ebony Gray.